Have Man United actually improved under Ruben Amorim? It's been 5 months since Amorim joined Man United, and they're unbeaten against Man City this season. But did the latest 0-0 draw show signs of progress, or only provide false hope to the fans? We'll be breaking down how Man United's build-up showed signs of improvement, but not for the long term, why Man United deserve no credit for keeping a clean sheet, how Bruno Fernandes' role has become Amorim's biggest tactical headache, and we'll try to answer whether Man United are actually improving. Now, this is one of the worst Manchester derbies in history, but Man United's attack did improve a tiny bit, but not for the reasons you may think. And we have to jump to the first attack in the first minute just to show you why. Now, the main reasons that Man United have been struggling in attack, and specifically in their build-up from the back, is that they A, don't use their double pivots enough, and B, there's not enough fluidity, rotation, patterns of play that Amorim has instilled into this team. And you can see that Man United set up with the flat back three structure. You got Dorgu at left wing back, and then you got Ugarte and Casemiro just ahead of them. And what's usually been happening is teams have been going man for man, telling Man United, you have to just play through us, play individually, make that space and that movement in your own team, and they've been unable to deal with that defensive press. But Man City set up in a 4-3-3 formation for some reason in this game. They had that high three of Kevin De Bruyne, Marmoush, and Foden up top. Their job was to press the centre-backs. But instead of having that sort of man-marking system, getting amongst the double pivots, Man City decided to go with that flat midfield free structure of Bernardo Silva, Kovacic in that number 6 role, and Gundogan in the left centre midfield role. But as Maguire passes the ball to Euro, this is where the problem starts to begin for Man City's pressing structure. You can see that Foden, instead of running directly at Euro, he curves that run, blocks it out to Dorgu, and that only gives Euro more time. Now, that would be no problem at all if there was someone man-marking or sort of restricting the options for Man United when they're on the ball. But Ugarte has all the time in the world, and as he receives that ball from Euro, Bernardo Silva seems to go out towards Dorgu. He doesn't seem to go up and press Ugarte. I'm not sure why Pep didn't want him to go out wide, because it's the easiest way to lock Man United in. It's what all the other teams they faced previously have done. But all that did was provide Ugarte with so much time on the ball to be able to pick that pass out to Dorgu. But before we get to that, let's talk about why the shape was so wrong for Man City. You can see two problems occurring. Núñez, the right back, as Garnacho drops and Dorgu pushes up, he's not close enough to either of them to make a decision, which gives Dorgu more time. And then there's two centre-backs against Højlund. There's no need for two centre-backs to be against Højlund. The man-marking scheme would have solved that. But instead, as Ugarte plays that to Dorgu, he finds that direct pass into Højlund, who's positioned himself really well in between the two centre-backs. Højlund plays a lovely pass around the corner for Garnacho, who's made a deep run. Núñez is no longer man-marking him because he's moved out to Dorgu, and he makes a lovely run to exploit that space left by Núñez. And then Garnacho heads it forward, lovely first touch, but the City defenders recover quite well, to be honest. He probably could have taken that more into his left foot and had a left foot shot, or played that ball earlier into the run of Fernandes, I think it is. But he's tackled on the edge of the box, free kick's given, and they're out. And that's all due to the pressing structure. Rather than man marking, they have this 4-3-3 zonal system, and this repeated time and time again, and it makes Man United look better in the build-up than they actually are. But should we give Man United more credit from a defensive perspective? They kept a clean sheet against Man City. They kept Man City to the lowest XG they've recorded all season in all competitions. Again, it's down to what Man City did more than what Man United were doing. Let me explain. Now, I don't even like putting numbers on this from a Pep Guardiola team, but broadly, it was a 4-2-4. They had the back four in a normal back four structure. They had a double pivot of Bernardo Silva and Kovacic. Then they had a front four that interchange. Usually it was Gundogan and De Bruyne or Foden dropping deep, and then Marmoush being the one to make the runs in behind. But broadly, there was four attackers that were rotating and trying to cause a bit of havoc for that Man United structure. But in this deep block, this low block that Man United were fielding throughout the game, the problem was the lack of width. That's where the space was, in those wide areas. But for some reason, the Man City fullbacks stayed very central. They didn't push up high and wide. They stayed in the same line as that double pivot. And this is where they should be. They should be stretching that Man United back line. Look how comfortable it is for Dalot and Dorgu to tuck in and man mark those four Man City attackers. You know, if you're going to play that narrow 4 or the narrow 3 that they do high up top, then you need the width to stretch that back line, and then the pockets and spaces in the half spaces occur for De Bruyne to drop into, for Foden to drop into, or Gundogan to drop into. But those Man City fullbacks stay deep, and even when O'Reilly picks up this ball, you can see how comfortable Man United's backline is. They can just tuck in really narrow, man mark each player, and then just deal with Man City as and when they come along. But the problem was the shape. They didn't have any width in this team. If you're going to set up with some narrow attackers, you need the width to stretch the play, to stretch that opposition structure, and then you can play into the little half spaces as and when they pop up. But even when Man City were able to put together a little pattern of play, a little bit of time and space on the ball, the individual technical ability on show from both teams, to be honest with you, but specifically Man City, was so poor. But if we want to talk about individual quality, there's one player that stood out amongst all players in the game, and that is Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes was the best player on the pitch by far, but he's causing a little bit of a tactical headache for Ruben Amorim. What is his best position that brings the best out of Bruno and the team? And if we start off with this clip, is when he's playing as a number 10, Mazraoui plays a lovely ball into Bruno Fernandes, who drops a bit deeper into the gap left between that midfield and defensive line from Man City. What does he do? First time, cushion chest pass into Højlund's feet, just lovely under pressure. And then as he spins, he just doesn't admire his own pass. That movement he has is so instinctive to just keep up with play, keep things ticking in that mid to attacking third. Højlund just clips it around the corner as Bruno makes a subtle movement inside. And then just the technical quality on show is insane here. It's something that doesn't really happen in this squad for Man United. That freedom to roam, that freedom to link play. But I think he just does it off the cuff. And he plays a lovely first time pass on the bounce, crisp connection, just flat along the ground into Garnacho's path. He makes a lovely run in behind. And then he doesn't again admire the pass. He keeps moving forward, knows where the space is. He can see Garnacho and Højlund on that side. So he just drifts to the left-hand side. Garnacho holds the ball up well, plays a lovely little pass into his feet. And then Bruno Fernandes just drifts forward with the ball. Again, weighted pass into Dorgu's feet. He doesn't just stick it into his feet. He plays it in front of him so he can play a first-time cross or have a shot on goal. Dorgu decides to have a little shot on goal. It's wide. But you can see how he's so instrumental in linking the play between his attacking players. But he's also just as good from a technical perspective in a double pivot role. Now in this clip, Mazraoui nicks the ball from Kevin De Bruyne and he plays a simple pass into Bruno's feet. But this is what I mean. All the attackers come alive when Bruno has the ball at his feet. Garnacho makes a lovely dart in behind Núñez, and it's a tricky ball. There's space to play in behind, but Núñez actually tracks this run pretty well. He stays goal side, he still has that pace to recover in behind, but it's just a flat, beautiful trajectory on this ball. And the tricky thing from a technical perspective is it's underneath his feet. So he takes one little touch and then doesn't hesitate to play that pass straight away because he knows the timing is important, but he's still able to execute on that in his passing ability. Plays Garnacho in behind. Nothing really comes from this, but it's just that technical ability, that deep sort of passing ability, the vision that Bruno is able to bring to this Man United team in the double pivot role that no other player in that role brings. But you could argue from a defensive perspective, Bruno is better in that right side number 10 position. It's fairly clear what he has to do, game in, game out, just be tucked in next to that double pivot, block any passing channels, and then he's able to break or find those spaces on the counter-attack. He's probably has to be a bit more disciplined in that double pivot role, but for what he brings from deep in that position, the passing ability, the vision, it's unlike anything else, and it can help with the build-up that they struggle with, especially when they're facing that man-marking scheme. So it's an interesting tactical headache that Amorim probably has to solve this season and then have an idea of where he wants to play him in the following season when he can bring in his own players. So has Ruben Amorim actually improved Man United? I think from a defensive perspective, they are a little bit more secure, especially when they're in that low to mid block. I don't think they can press high anymore. I think he's accepted it, especially against the big teams. But there's problems where they press high against teams they think they should win against. But from an attacking perspective, there's a lot to do. In this game, I think Man City kind of played into their hands with how they set up. The build-up is still a problem. Should they play Bruno deeper? It's still a tactical issue that he has to figure out. But let me know what you think in the comments, Man United fans. What did you make of the game? What is Bruno's best position? And has Amorim actually improved Man United? And check out another one of my videos here. There's some Man United videos in the vault. Go check them out as well on my channel. And I'll see you on the next episode of A Game in Two Halves.